Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So glad to see you here to honor and celebrate the life of Joyce Plummer. My name is Paul Arnold, and I served here as a chaplain for about 8 years, and it was my pleasure to know Joyce as a friend. She always treated me that way with a kindness and insights that I always appreciated. We talked about many things when I was here, about nature, which she absolutely loved and adored, about the friends that she made over the years, and the unexpected joys that life brought her. She was incredibly humble, likable, but you already know that, don't you? We gather here to honor her life, her acts of service here to this institution, this community, but in other places as well. Let us start with a prayer. Oh God, we thank you for the gift of life. Often our life goes quicker than we even imagine. There are so many blessings along the way: family, friends, memories, times of pure joy and times of difficult sorrow. Joyce knew them all and yet persevered in many ways. Some we know and some we do not. We admired her courage, her intelligence, and that small smile she had when she wrote something quite decently. We are grateful for the people gathered here today to celebrate her life, that we keep her alive in our memories and by the way we treat others. So we thank you for this moment, and we pray this in the one that we love and adore. Amen.
Amen.
When I was chaplain here, one of the things we did, and I know that Glacier Hill still does, is to honor the lives of the residents who died over the last 6 months or a year, depending on the year. And I asked Joyce early on when I realized she was a poet, I said, do you want to read something that you wrote in this memorial service? Because I think it added so much. And her and Marvin Brandwin, both as poets, would come and read their poetry, and it became sort of a tradition. And what she read each time was a poem she wrote called Equilibrium. And so I will read that to you now. Michigan's seasons mimic life's changes. The dreary winter sky droops, white everywhere. Roofs, trees, more coming from the clouds above. Even wind gusts are silent. Yet balmy June days with gentle breezes swaying the fully leafed trees and blooming flowers under a bright blue sky. As James Russell Lowell said, make life murmur or see it glisten. Calm and beauty, physical and spiritual reality touch those who are alert and aware. A Brahms intermezzo can provide impact to one familiar with the piece who connects it with earlier associations or to anyone hearing it anew. A painting such as Van Gogh's Irises is seen as a beautiful study or as a sight available in your backyard. A loved one's voice from afar or a written message ending, "Take care, stay well," touches the soul. A relative or friend you can see, hear, touch is perfection. Such sensual and mental experiences make up who we are. When events and disappointments and disasters make us sad or cynical, stop and remember, as Dell, Richard Ford's narrator in his prize-winning novel Canada, concludes, "What I know is you have a better chance in life of surviving it if you tolerate loss well. Manage it not to be a cynic through it all, but to keep proportion, to connect the unequal things into a whole that preserves the good." At this time, we have several people coming forward to share their memories, and the main orchestrator of this event unfortunately could not attend. Ray Rabideau, who is the CEO and president of this place for many years, wanted to make sure that Joyce had a fitting tribute and called me and Priscilla and asked if we could help organize this. And unfortunately, he's sick and could not travel. But he wrote his words down, and I've asked Priscilla to come and to read his words. Now, remember, this is Ray speaking first person, although Priscilla is going to voice it. So if you can imagine Ray Rabideau instead of Priscilla, I'd rather look at Priscilla any day, though. Sorry, Ray, we're recording it for you right now. But so after Ray/Priscilla comes, Martha, David, Daria, and Peter will come and share their memories.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful. I'm happy to share Ray's remarks with you. I first met Bob and Joyce Plummer in early 1999, soon after my arrival at Glacier Hills as the new president and CEO. We had a good visit, and Bob shared with me his work in progress on a book about growing older in the new millennium. We also discovered that we shared Flint, Michigan roots, and that Joyce had grown up about 4 blocks from where I lived, although we were 13 years apart in age. Bob's book, Live It Up in the New Millennium, was published that fall. It was full of all kinds of information and advice about how to live a vital life, even perhaps to age 120, as medical advancements were enabling seniors to live longer and be more active. I think that the book reflected a fundamental attitude held both by Bob and Joyce about the possibilities for seniors in their later years. I assisted Bob with the distribution of copies of his book to other senior communities in Michigan. As time passed and Bob's health began to deteriorate with dementia, Joyce remained his faithful daily visitor and companion, even as he lived in the memory care unit, and Joyce continued to reside in a manor apartment. I was honored to be asked by Joyce to speak at Bob's memorial service in 2007. Joyce had begun a new adventure as the editor and publisher of a resident publication, Ideas and Images. Joyce immersed herself in the project, and it was clear to me that she and Bob shared a great philosophy of wanting to share ideas and profiles of seniors with others. I found the contents of Ideas and Images to be very uplifting, whether of art, photography, life experiences, prose or poetry, all about residents who lived at Glacier Hills. I learned so much about their talents and life experiences. Joyce also offered a writing class for residents, as she knew all too well the desire that many of us have to capture parts of our lives in writing for posterity. Joyce retired as editor of the publication several years ago, having tired of the publication deadlines and the need to be constantly seek and cajole new sources for content for the publication, but satisfied with a job well done. To this day, I have never seen such a regularly scheduled publication of retirement community resident works and stories. At one time, Joyce was recognized by our state trade association for her work on ideas and images. Joyce was always on the move as I would pass her in the hallways, whether taking the book cart to the care center to offer reading materials to the residents, or her tireless efforts to continually improve the offerings in our Glacier Hills Library, or exercising on a new step in the Wellness Connection Fitness Center. She quietly and efficiently went about her life, helping to make the lives of our residents more interesting and meaningful. She was also a regular participant in the annual distribution of holiday bonuses from the residents to the staff. Upon the 40th anniversary of Glacier Hills, I asked Joyce if she would research the GH archives and write a recap of our first 40 years to be offered as an insert for the anniversary publication. She did a fine job. Joyce also loved art and was a regular donor to help fund art classes for the assisted living residents. When I retired in March 2017, my wife Melissa and I moved to Covington, Louisiana to be closer to her siblings. I would schedule return visits to Ann Arbor periodically to visit old friends and to visit my older sister in Flint. Joyce let it be known to me that she expected me to visit her every time I was in Ann Arbor. Joyce would often email me, and if she didn't receive a response within a few days, she would email me again to see why I hadn't responded yet. She even resorted to phone calls occasionally to assure that I was okay. During one of my first visits to Ann Arbor after my retirement, I took Joyce to lunch at Carson's Bistro, a favorite local restaurant of hers. We had a good visit and a tasty lunch, and then I drove her back to Glacier Hills. I stopped near the door to let her out, and we said our goodbyes. I leaned across to give her a hug, and she promptly planted a kiss firmly on my lips. Well, needless to say, I was a bit stunned at that, and I left that day wondering what, if anything, I needed to say or do. I called my friend Margie right away and suggested to her that maybe she should chaperone us on future lunch dates. Goodness. After that, I changed my goodbye practice to assure that there would not be a repeat incident. I began getting out of the car and walking around to her side, helping her exit and offering a hug. I had a lot more maneuvering room and no chance for mixed signals. Over the past couple of years, as Joyce's health deteriorated, the emails stopped and my in-person visits were limited to shorter duration in her apartment. But she always wanted a hug, and I always obliged. In July of 2019, Joyce made a list of 4 names with contact information under the heading Joyce Peck Plummer Memorial Service. She had it notarized. There were no instructions or ideas, just the list of names. One person, Tom Callaward, was Joyce's trust officer at Bank of Ann Arbor before he retired. He has since passed away. The others, Martha Mann, Peter Hoke, and I have all participated in today's service. Joyce's faithful local friend, Daria Pack, visited Joyce on a weekly basis over the many years since Bob passed away. She was a dear and loyal friend. I know that Joyce's happy hour friends also miss her, especially her next door neighbor and shopping chauffeur, David Pumphrey. We who were her friends were also her family. She quietly cherished each one of us. I am better for having known Joyce and proud to have earned her friendship. She did so much to enhance the everyday life that is Glacier Hills, and she will be greatly missed. I'm very grateful to all of you who have helped to make this memorial service for Joyce possible. We have given of our time or talent to do so because that's what families do for loved ones. I am so sorry that I could not be here with you to share this time today, but I pray that Joyce knows that she was loved and honored. Yes, you're next in line right there.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here to honor my friend Joyce Peck Plummer. My name is Martha Mahan. I have lived in Sarasota, Florida since 1968, but Joyce and I were always in contact and always remained friends. I knew about her little wine meetings in the hallway that happened recently, but our story goes back before that. Our friendship began in the year 1955. I was 15 years old at the time. I'll be 82 this month. Joyce was probably 26 at the time, a very young English teacher at Flint Central High School. I remember going into her classroom. We had some temporary quarters outside the main building. It was called the West Wing, but it was really just some old college buildings with wooden stairs. We had great chalkboards. Joyce was good at writing left-handed, very neatly on the chalkboard, all of her assignments. She was an excellent teacher, concerned with her students, probably stayed up late, actually reading all of our essays, which probably were not that great. I did have her in my senior year of high school too, and she was helpful in grading our papers and making suggestions and correcting things. So when I was in high school, I also found out that Joyce was at my church, which was Woodside Church, which was next to the library at the Flint University of Michigan. And behind that building was Flint Community Junior College. And across the creek was Flint Central High School. And next to that was Whittier Junior High School. And I went to all of them. So I am from Flint. The school was crowded that first year, but she endured it, and she continued to teach there. I went on to Flint Junior College and Flint University of Michigan and graduated from there. I wrote these notes as I drove up from Florida in the last 2.5 days, so this is not a formal speech of any kind. When Joyce went to Japan, I had an interest in Japan because I had a Japanese pen pal. I remain interested in Japan to this day. I have had Japanese exchange students who come to visit me on their honeymoon sometimes. So it was an encouragement in that direction, I'm sure. Joyce's brother George was in the Air Force and became an Air Force captain, so perhaps she knew about the military high schools. She went to teach in Japan. I waved goodbye to her at Bishop Airport in Flint, Michigan, as she went to Japan. She stayed in touch with little letters and notes, taking full advantage of immersing herself in the Japanese culture. She took side trips. She was interested in everything. Her students were not. Some of them stayed on the base all the time, and that really bothered her. But anyway, she continued with them, and she had a good time that year. She sponsored the school newspaper and the yearbook, which probably prepared her for your publication at Glacier Hills. Forgive me for reading my notes, otherwise I will forget everything. When she was in Japan, she took ikebana classes, learned to arrange flowers, learned some basic Japanese, and made Japanese friends. Joyce was immersed in where she was. When she returned, my husband, who was not yet my husband, Jeffrey Mahan over here, went with me to Woodside Church, where Joyce presented a slideshow. At that time, everybody was impressed by a slideshow, and she narrated it, and the pictures were beautiful. I didn't know that she was such a good photographer, but at that time, we took slides, and she did a great presentation. Joyce continued to teach at Flint Central High School in her 30s. I may be a little bit out of order here. I'm glad to be here today because 60 years ago, on January 25th, 1964, Joyce was there for me and my husband when we were married in Flint, Michigan. So we go back 60 years. At that time, I had just graduated that week from Flint University of Michigan. And every day as I entered the college, and we checked in our coats and hats, went up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs was Dr. Robert H. Plummer, the assistant dean of the Flint College of the University of Michigan. He will come into the story later. So I knew Joyce and Bob from 60 years ago, both of them. Joyce always corresponded, and when I came to Flint, my family is from Flint, my husband's family from that area too, I came to see Joyce as much as possible. Let's skip forward till maybe Joyce was in her 40s. She had decided to become a librarian. She took, I believe she has 2 or 3 degrees in library science. So as she continued to write to me, and our family of 4 children were growing up, I wrote to Joyce and I said, why don't you come and visit me? Let me show you around Sarasota. I'll take the kids to school, I'll get a babysitter, and I'll show you around. And that's what I did. She surprised me by saying yes, that she would come. She was a rather private person. So what did she tell the people at the library? They said, why would you go to Sarasota? She said, I'm going to join the circus. That makes sense because we know many active and retired performers in Sarasota. It was the winter quarters of John Ringling's circus. Johnny Ringling had a hotel in Sarasota, the John Ringling Hotel. And in the 1940s, he brought over all of the top performers from Europe. And we got to know some of these people from show folks of Sarasota. So while she was there to join the circus, I said, okay, we'll make the story really good. I live out in the country, and about 10 miles from our house was a guy with elephants. He wintered there with elephants. So we went to his house, and Joyce rode an elephant. And we took photos, so she had proof. So in the years to come, she sent me some ceramic elephants, various references to elephants over the years. I was going to tell you one more thing. Well, she came 2 or 3 times to Sarasota. On one of her visits, I got her out of her serious mode, I guess. I said, why don't we go to a roller skating rink? She could skate a lot better than I could. So that surprised me. Joyce was a good roller skater. Little odd fact. I'll skip ahead to the love story. Joyce and Bob had known each other at Flint Junior College. And when Bob was widowed, they reconnected in Flint at a party. They met each other. And I think it was truly a love story. Joyce needed Bob. Her letters started to be different. Said, I'm having fun. The word fun came to them. She was having fun. She was in love with Bob Plummer. So they dated for a while, trying to figure out how could they manage for her to retire early and join him and move to Ann Arbor. So they figured it out. They were married. They were married in Petoskey, Michigan, I believe, or somewhere over in that area. Joyce shopped for her wedding suit in Sarasota, Florida. We went down on Main Street, and she bought a lovely suit. So Joyce was really looking forward to married life. Joyce and Bob were great together. As serious as she was, Bob liked to call her Gigi sometimes, which I thought was very cute and sweet. They were married for 21 years, and we got to know them well. They came to our house and visited, got to know our children. When I told my sons that Joyce had passed away, one of them said, how old was she? And I said, 92, almost 93. And he said, she had a good run. And I said, yes, she did. She had a good run. So I think that is true. When we were at Joyce and Bob's cabin up on Lake Michigan, that was really a special time. They took us out for dune buggy rides. We walked the beach in front of their home. When they came to our house in Florida, Bob taught us to play bocce ball, and we had a croquet set, and they were both wickedly competitive at croquet. So that went pretty well. Another thing that happened at our house was that Bob liked to impersonate Carl Sandburg. And I believe it was mentioned that Carl Sandburg was her favorite poet. So you could say she married Carl Sandburg. In our living room, he donned a wig and a plaid shirt, and I don't know if he had a pipe or not, but somewhere in probably my Super 8 recordings or some kind of video thing that needs to be changed, I have a recording of Bob Plummer being Carl Sandburg. So that was a special thing for us. I think my husband told you that at one time he and Bob rode bikes with our sons to Mayaca State Park, which is about 5 hours, or not 5 hours, 5 miles from our home. So they went there. Bob went fishing with my husband and had a good time. On the way home, I will tell this story. My husband said, let's have a cigar and celebrate. Joyce wasn't too fond of that. So, but anyway, that was a great thing. Many times we came to Sarasota, went to the Gandy Dancer with them. I brought a friend from Germany named Brigitte with me, and Joyce and Bob graciously gave us their tickets to a Michigan football game, drove us to the stadium, and picked us up, and I believe took us to the Gandy Dancer afterward. I spoke with my friend this week, and she said, I remember how gracious and generous Bob and Joyce were. Of course, I remember them. So she's remembered in Germany. Joyce was a very big part of Glacier Hills. I believe she lived here nearly 29 years. My husband and I were with Joyce and Bob at Huron Towers in Sarasota, in Ann Arbor, over on Fuller Road, when Joyce and Bob announced that they were going to sell the cabin and they were going to be at Glacier Hills because that would meet their needs in the future for both of them. And I believe that it did. In 2007, I spoke at Bob's funeral because I had known him also. When they first said they were going to Glacier Hills, Bob brought my husband over here, and my husband remembers somebody greeting, saying, "Welcome to Glacier Hills." Bob showed us around the gardens and the grounds, and it seemed to be a good place for them. Later, they planned to build an apartment, which they did, which Joyce continued to live in. Joyce and I continued to correspond throughout the years with cards and letters and little gifts. She sent Christmas gifts until recent times, and I treasure one that was made by Daria. On top of my refrigerator is a large green turquoise bowl, very large, and in it said made by Daria Kim. Also 2 face mugs that she sent to me on one occasion. I appreciate those very much. And I appreciate Daria because I know that in the last 17 years, she stood by Joyce and was a friend and was with her until the end. I was unable to be here for the last few years of Joyce's life. I was here last 6 years ago. Things in my life came along too, namely COVID, for one thing, changed things for all of us a little bit. I was glad to hear from Joyce, though, that COVID didn't slow her down too much. She said we're tired of staying in our rooms. We're not able to go to the dining room, and they're putting food outside the door. And so they got together in the hallways, I believe with Reverend Pumphrey, and had a little bit of wine and cheese or something. So that was good. I just want to say thank you to all of you who have been friends with Joyce and appreciated her throughout the years, and those who have cared for her. The last years, I know, have been difficult, but she endured, and I'm sure she had faith in the future. So today, she and Bob are together. She remains my friend, and I think of her often. Thank you.
Today we're here to remember. It's a memorial service. Remember moments when Joyce touched our life and made a difference. I remember the first day I arrived at Glacier Hills after about a 3.5-hour drive from someplace in Ohio. I was standing in the hall and the movers were moving furniture into an apartment. My son and his wife were telling him where to put things. I stood there, quite frankly, kind of at a loss, beginning something new that I knew nothing about. Suddenly, coming down the hall was this lady who had a marvelous smile on her face. It was a warm smile. Her eyes sparkled. It was a deep, quiet smile. And she came up to me and reached out her hand, and she said, "Welcome to Glacier Hills. I'm Joyce Plummer, your neighbor." I can tell you, suddenly everything, all the tension in my life dropped out. I was welcomed by a new family. The next morning, I understood you could go down to the cafe and get some breakfast. Well, I went down shortly after 7 o'clock in the morning, walked into the cafe, and there was Joyce eating breakfast with some friends. And that marvelous smile just beamed across her face, and she introduced me to everybody there. It got so that we ate breakfast together every day. Well, not every day, because I didn't serve breakfast on Sunday, but every other day in the week. And then Joyce and I would go to the exercise room and do the new step and some of the other exercises. It was marvelous to be with her and the energy she seemed to produce and share. As time went on, I discovered she really was quite involved in the whole life of Glacier Hills, involved in the library. She was a part of the foundation. Seemed to me every time I turned around, she was there, somewhere showing some interest in the life of everybody here. I remember one time that we were, a few of us were invited to go to a retirement home in the Carolinas. It was the time when Trinity was being considered to be a new owner of Glacier Hills, and we went there to see what they did with a similar organization. I was deeply impressed by how careful she looked at everything and how she listened to all the people who were managing that facility and as well as to some of the residents. And she brought it home to share with all of us as we tried to determine, was Trinity a good buyer for us? And of course it was. I understood that Joyce was also, I guess, editor and publisher of the Ideas and Images. She had a little table in her bedroom with a computer on it, and she would go out and get people to bring in articles or photos or artwork. She would assemble them all, edit the articles, put them in the proper order, and send them off to the printer to be printed. And when he was done, she helped make sure that they were distributed to everybody here. What a remarkable person. She cared about this place. This was her home, and we all were her family. I understood also that she had a writing group. Well, I wasn't quite sure that I wanted to go, but she kept encouraging me to go. And okay, well, you know, I've written sermons for a good long time, and maybe I can improve the way I write. She'll criticize on how I form sentences and tell me how to reform ideas and make it more clear. So I went. Lo and behold, she never criticized anything. She just encouraged us to be creative and to express what was in our hearts and to find ways to do it. She would give us subjects to write about, but it didn't matter to her if you chose not to follow that subject, but be creative. Share something of yourself. Well, one day she kept talking about writing poetry. I've never written poetry, so she kept pushing me to do it, and she said, well, at least why don't you write a haiku? All right. I spent at least a week, if not more, trying to come up with a haiku. I struggled and struggled. I got one that was over 20 verses long. She got it, she read it, she gave me this marvelous smile, and her eyes twinkled. And she said, David, you know, that's really much too long for a haiku. There are only a couple of verses. I thought to myself, she's the only person in my life that had the love and the courage to tell me to shut up when I talk too much. Okay, Joyce, I won't make it too long. Another thing that I discovered about Joyce that was a little different. She was always so quiet and so humble, but she loved Michigan football. She was an avid Go Blue fan. Every time we'd gather in the Victor's Lounge, she would be there in the center of the room looking at the TV, huge TV, really big TV, and listening in her quiet kind of way. But suddenly Michigan would have a touchdown, and suddenly she would spring up in her chair and slam a little toy she had in order for it to make a sound like a chair, and she'd say, "Go Blue!" I never saw such energy come out of her any other time. A great fan, and she even put up with me because I'm a Buckeye fan, you know. Okay. And that was remarkable. She didn't put me down for that at all. She tried to encourage me. What a wonderful, precious person. Always with that smile that touched your heart and made you know that somebody cared. During the pandemic, I think you heard Catherine mention the fact that during the pandemic, for 3 months, we weren't allowed to leave our apartments. The staff, precious hearts, all of them, would bring food to our door. And I don't know, I got to talking with Joyce about it because she lives right next door. And I said, you know, I'm getting awful bored talking to myself. And she said, I think so too. Why don't we get together? I said, it's against the rules. But She's, oh, let's do it anyway. And let's invite Molly Dobson and Becky Bunnell to join us. So we met every night for an hour before dinner, making sure we got back to our apartment in order to receive the food. Management knew we were breaking the law, but they didn't do anything about it because we never got the COVID. But we got to know one another in a deep, wonderful way. You spend 5 days a week talking to somebody for an hour, you really get to know them. And I got to know Joyce in a deep and wonderful way. Toward the end, her memory started to slip and slide. And I would notice that she was kind of aware of it. And when one of us would ask her a question, she'd pause for the longest time, and then suddenly I saw this struggle to get a smile on her face, and she said, you know, I just don't remember anymore. My heart ached. Then things got much worse, and she would get confused at times. I remember one night she came to my door with one of the helpers, not the two of you, but one of the other helpers came up with her, rapped on the door. She was really confused and really, really tense and frightened. She really was frightened. And she tried to explain what was wrong and couldn't get the words out of her mouth. And I chatted with her for a while, then finally reached out my hand and touched hers. She grabbed a hold tight and wouldn't let go. Then finally she kind of cocked her head, looking up at me, and tried to give me that smile. The eyes weren't sparkling, but the smile was there. And she went home peacefully. What a precious Joyce is. What a precious person to touch your life and to make you know that you mattered in the world. Now I walk down the hall, and as I passed the door to her apartment, I suddenly realized it's empty. And my heart kind of sinks. Then I take a step or two more, and you know, I suddenly felt her presence. And I could see her face smiling at me as I continued down the hall. I have to share this. You know, Joyce died some time ago, but I believe she still lives. I can't explain it. I can't prove it. But I believe she's alive. I don't want to describe the life because I don't want to limit the possibilities that's before her. And she shares her life with those surrounding her. With all of my heart and mind and soul, I believe though she's dead, she lives. And somehow, right now, I think she's looking down upon us, her family at Glacier Hills, and saying thank you for being my friend.
Okay, hi. My name is Daria.
That's it.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's good.
Yeah.
My name is Daria Peck, and I never formally speech in front of American people. Then I used to talking about the ceramics. Then
except the ceramic, it's hard for me to. Honestly, before I came here, I was afraid to talking with English. Then also I came from Korea, 1988. Then we don't have any R sounds. We don't have any F sounds. If my pronouns is strange, let me know. Okay. Okay. And I came America 1988 with a 3 months young daughter. Followed my ex-husband, and I was at Alabama 8 years. He did a doctorate degree, and I moved to Michigan, 1997, with my daughter, my ex-husband. Then my daughter was in high school, 1999, around 2000. Then, Mom, I want to do hospice care. Then she was too young to hospice care at that time. Then she should be with the parents together for hospice care around 2000. And my daughter did hospice care for Joyce's husband, Bob, at that time. That's how I met Joyce. Fortunately, Bob was alive 5 more years after my daughter did the hospice care. Can you believe that? Then that's how we met more. Then 2007, she lost Bob. Okay, I lost my father same time, same year, and I divorced, horrible divorced. Then Joyce lost. She had a breast cancer. She lost the breast at that time. Then I lost 30 pounds at the time. I was so depressed. Then someday she knocked on my door around 2007. Then she wear the black sunglasses in front of my door. Daria, you need some eat. Then she offered to me the buying some lunch for me once in a week. She visited my house once in a week. She bought the lunch for me. Then we had a lunch, then we had a tea for 1 year. Then next year, Joyce, I can visit you. Then opposite, I started to visit her in here. In 2008 until I lost her. Then we met once in a week, had a lunch. Then after lunch, we have a tea time in her place. Then honestly, before I came here, I didn't talk much with my mom. She's still alive in my country, but once in a week, talk with Joyce after lunch with the tea. I never talk with the person in my life more than any other people. That means I didn't think about that until I lost her. She was a perfect mom to me. She was. Then lots of people, oh, Joyce is lucky to have you. Lots of people talk to me. That I think I lucky to have her. She's a wonderful advisor because I don't have any other family in here except my daughter after. Then I don't have anyone to discuss. I started teaching 2006 in our center, 20 years until now. Then so many things going on. I'm not American. I didn't do social work until the 2006. Then I have so many problems and so many angles, sometimes hard time in the job. And I'm working at the WCC, studio manager, and teaching in our center, many class. Everything is new to me. I was a nurse in my country, and I'm doing ceramic right now. I'm teaching ceramic for over the 20 years. I was struggling my life, lost the family, but she always listened. She never trying to advise first. She always listened. And she always encouraged to me. Oh, Daria, you're amazing. How did you do that? Okay? That's why you cannot meet that perfect man in your life. Then it's a joke. Some people ask me after I lost Joyce, everybody knew that I didn't have a time with Joyce more than any other people. Daria, she didn't left any money for you? Somebody asked me. I said, I got more value that money from her in my life. She always with me. I didn't have any think about meaning. I met her. Then I visited her once in a week. Like you go to school, you have wash your face, something like that. I never think about put any big meaning. Just I saw her, that's it. We met each other, we talking each other, we each spent time. That's it. Then even if I lost her, I didn't feel as David said, she's still alive. Then I visit once in a week. Every time I woke up every Monday, I used to not teach Tuesday and Friday. I'm teaching almost every day. Okay, this week is a good time to see her. Tuesday, Friday, I'm still thinking like that. Then only one thing I felt I didn't have her today, because we're talking about Joyce today, but Joyce is not here. Only I can see her picture. That's why I'm sad. I didn't cry. I tried to not to cry. Because she lived in my mind. Right? Yeah. Another thing is I was so sad right after I lost her, because I was with David and other caregiver when she passed away. 3 hours. She didn't breathe. I was taught the class at the day. I visited her 3 times at the day when I lost her. I come and go 3 times. Then after I lost her, I sent to the text message to the guardian, when is her funeral? Then what is the next things going on? I didn't know about that. I didn't have any experience about that. Then I heard after 2 weeks from the guardian, we don't have the responsibility for her funeral. And what is the memorial day? She didn't say anything. I got just a short message. I was so sad. Then I knew that David and other people had a wine party during the pandemic. And before the pandemic, I just used to bought the wine for her, because the Gracia Hill didn't buy wine for the grocery, right? Then I just brought the wine for her once in a week for the wine party for the friends. Then I have some leftover. Then after pandemic, then she does have a caregiver. I don't have to buy wine for her. Then there's some leftover wine. I saw that after I lost her. There's 1 bottle remained in my kitchen. I didn't drink wine. I'm the beer person. Then I don't know. Suddenly, after I lost this 2 weeks, then I got email from the guardian the funeral, and I was so depressed. Then I drank wine. Then I couldn't remember what I did after. Then I sent to the text message around 12 midnight to her guardian and her lawyer, the young lawyer. But honestly, I couldn't remember. Next day morning, I got my text message from her guardian. Don't ever send the text message during after midnight. I apologize to her. I never sent the text to even for my family like that. But I sent the memory about her to guardian, to people. But I really couldn't remember what I did. It happened in my life, the first time and last time. Then. After that, just still, next day morning, I'm thinking, okay, what is a good time to visit her this week? Again, I'm thinking again. But I sent out the text message, forward text message to Ray about the guardians. They are not responsibility about the funeral, and the bank neither. Then I forward to that email to the Ray. Ray, what can we do? Then Ray is many experience about in here. Then he said, okay, I can handle it. Then I'm so happy. I don't have no difference. And I even if I didn't know where is her ash, after we lost her, I think about her ash. Where is it? Then today, the Paul and Peter and David will be buried her ash. I'm so happy. I'm so happy because I can see her more today, very close to see her. Then also, I'm so happy to many people knew Joyce in here. Then talking about Joyce, I'm more happy. And thank you so much.
I'm Peter Hauk. I've known Joyce since I was in high school. She was my English teacher. I thought I'd be the person who's known her the longest, but I got beat out by 2 years. It's such a small world. Not only did I go to Flint Junior College, I went to Woodside Church too. So it's, I had an interesting relationship with Joyce. She was my high school, one of my high school English teachers, but she was much more than that. A year or so before she passed, she said to me, "Do you remember that you used to come into my classroom at the end of school several times a week and just sit down and talk to me?" And I said, "Yes, I remember that." Well, she said, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "I did that because you were a person that I was learning things from. And you were a real mentor." And she truly was. She taught me one of life's valuable lessons. I was always interested in politics. I mean, from the time I was in junior high school, I knew I wanted to get into politics. And one day in her English class, I was mouthing off. I mean, I was absolutely out of control. And she called me out on it. And she said, "You're only doing this because you want to get votes for class president." "No, I'm not." Of course I was. And I was mortified. I'd been caught by myself and by her. We both knew it. It was a lie. I'd made a lie. I didn't run for class president. I couldn't live up to that lie. That has lived with me all the rest of my life. Among other things, it made me watch my tongue a little more carefully. Well, I graduated high school the next year and was off to college. And I didn't hear or see, or frankly, think a whole bunch about Joyce until about 10 years ago. I had a successful career in the law. I was county prosecutor, city attorney. I was a judge. I did a lot of cool things, and then I retired, and I was in part-time practice. And this letter appeared on my desk. And it was from Joyce Plummer. I'm looking at the envelope. Joyce Plummer. Did not ring any bells. Of course, I knew Joyce Peck, not Joyce Plummer. I slid it open, and I opened it, and it said, Dear Peter, you may not remember me, but I remember you. Oh my God, who is this? What have I done now? Well, that began a time of about 10 years worth of written correspondence between the two of us, and a number of lunches at Carson's and the Gandhi Dancer. But today, I took a couple of hours and I read through much of that correspondence because I've saved it. And what did that correspondence show? It showed an alert, engaged woman who enjoyed life and enjoyed all of those people about her. It showed, among other things, that she never ceased being a teacher. She frequently wrote about her activities here at Glacier Hills. This is a short paragraph. Another busy week for me. As you know by now, the ideas and images arrived on Monday for me to deliver throughout the complex. I've received numerous comments on the big issue and its contents. And then I met my writing class on Tuesday. Interesting discussion on our memories of World War II. And she always sent me the latest edition of the publication, and that was part of her campaign to get Rose and me to move here to Glacier Hills. But of course we have grandkids in the Lansing area, and they're a substantial anchor. That correspondence with Joyce had some interesting effects for me. Like Dave, I was worried when I started out, oh my God, I was writing letters to my English teacher. Am I going to get red marks on this? Fortunately, she did not correct any of my grammatical errors in my letters. But one of the great side benefits of it was she rescued me from the stilted, formal, legal writing style that I'd honed for the last close to 50 years when this relationship started, and I'll be forever grateful for that. She frequently commented on the transition from the Glacier Hills that she moved into as an independent entity to being a member of Trinity. She was very active in that transition. And that was important for her because she loved Glacier Hills and wanted to see it continue in pretty much the same form that it was. It's also a tribute to her, how active her mind was and her body, well into her 80s. Now, I don't think either Joyce or I would describe ourselves as sports nuts. But listening to her talk and reading her writing about the University of Michigan football team, I think she missed her calling. I think she should have been a sports writer. She also loved Glacier Hills and all the activities that it provided. Trips to the theater, musicals, and trips around the state. I mention this because I'm sure if Joyce were here today, she would thank Ray and the others who were responsible for organizing these events. As I said, she kept trying to recruit Rose and me into this community. Her letters were frequently commentaries on current political events. To say that she was somewhat critical of President Trump would be an understatement. I just wish that more of my contemporaries would be as actively concerned about our national well-being as she was. Again, this is a testament to her continued engagement in life. I'm going to share with you a paragraph because of how beautiful the writing is. Joyce said, As I took my walk outside this morning, I saw snowflakes falling on the blooming daffodils and 4 geese trying to decide if they wanted to swim in our icy pond or continue to fly around the area honking all the way. Guess these are symbols of the topsy-turvy state of our world right now. I read a review of a recent book, The Internet of Us, by Michael Lynch. He says, as we have become more Googlers, we no longer see how bits of info fit into the larger wholes. Then she analyzed the campaign styles of President Trump, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio. I guess Joe Biden would have used Joyce as a witness as to how together an octogenarian can really be, because she wrote that when she was 90 years old or close to it. What a remarkable woman. I miss Joyce, not only because of her keen intellect and her connection to my youth, but because she never ceased being a teacher. She shared her joy of life, her experiences, and her honesty freely, and we're all better for that. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful music and the words to remember Joyce. I'm going to share one haiku and then a blessing. And then, as Joyce would have enjoyed a glass of wine and some snacks over here, we invite you to stay and fellowship and share more stories as well. Thank you for Glacier Hills, for the management here, and the other residents who also can share wonderful memories of Joyce as well. Gone from the woods, the bird I knew by sight and song. And now a blessing. In the memory of our friend Joyce, who embraced hope, peace, and love, may we reach out to our future while steadied by the foundation of our past. With courage and curiosity, may we strive to know and be known in this transient world. May we laugh, cry, and dare to be a companion to others on this journey. Confronted by the greatest and final mystery of life and death, may we find solace in the good and godly all around us and the hope of life beyond. Amen. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.